by the rain, driven by the snow. I'm drunk and dirty, don't you know? And I'm still willing. And I was out on the road late at night. I seen my pretty Alice in every headlight. Alice, Dallas, Alice. And I've been from Tucson to Tucumcari, to Hatchapee to Tonopah, driven every kind of rig that's ever been made, driven the back road so I wouldn't get weighed. And if you give me weed, white sand wine, and you show me a sign, I'll be willing to be moving.
So this episode of Dopey on drugs, addiction, and dumb shit is brought to you by Aloe Recovery, located in southern sunny California, in Silver Lake and Malibu and a few other places down there. Aloe is the place to go if you are fucked and struggling and need a place to get well. Their staff has a combined 675 years of experience treating addiction and mental health problems. Their clinical director, Dr. Dina Mannion, has 3 decades of experience treating addiction and mental health disorders. They are doctors or board-certified addictionologists, multidisciplinary care team with a psychiatrist, master's, and doctoral level therapists to treat co-occurring and underlying mental health problems. If I was in trouble and I needed a place to go, I would go to Aloe. Mostly because it's Bob Forrest's place, and Bob Forrest says great things about it, and I know him and his friend Evan and their friend Bob created Aloe so that addicts can go to a place where they feel respected. And I think that's worth everything. And I have a friend who is at Aloe right now, and he says everything that I say about Aloe is true, especially the amenities, surfing, although I don't think he surfed yet, horseback riding, sweat lodges, and of course, the amazing sound bath meditation. If you're fucked, go to Aloe, check it out. It's very exciting. We also have a new ad from Just Coffee Co-op Company. And the Just Coffee Co-op Company is a worker-owned coffee roaster dedicated to creating and expanding a model of trade based on transparency, human dignity, and environmental sustainability. They build long-term relationships with small-scale coffee growers to bring you a truly incredible cup of coffee. And they sent me some of this coffee, and it really is good. They sent me my favorite is the dark roast. Linda likes the lighter roast. Everybody likes the medium roast. And it's exciting. If you guys want to support Dopey and you want to support Just Coffee, you go to justcoffee.coop and you /discount/dopeypod, and in April you'll get 30% of all the coffee. So they will send you coffee at a discounted rate. And if you do it with dopeypod as the code, you will receive a total of 35% off in April. So go to justcoffee.coop, JUSTCOFFEE.coop, and support them. And here is the show. Hello, and welcome to Dopey, the podcast about drugs, addiction, and dumb shit. And I'm Dave. And we have this guest today, and I'm very surprised he decided to come on so quickly. So I'm not as researched as I'd like to be. It's the host of the Jason Ellis Show, professional skateboarder, mixed martial art master. What would you call yourself? Jason Ellis. Jason Ellis, everybody. Here we go. Welcome.
All right. Great to be here.
Would you call yourself?
It's not very hard to have me on the show, man. All you can do is ask.
I know, man. It happened too quickly. Normally there's a whole flirtation. There's a dance.
Yeah, no, I'm not very flirtatious. I just get to the point.
Good.
Sorry.
Would you say you're a mixed martial arts master?
No, not at all. I would say mixed martial bullshit artist.
All right. Mixed martial arts enthusiast, maybe.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, when I was years and years ago, I was addicted to heroin, and I was listening to the Howard Stern show every day, forever. And I heard you come on for the first time. And you were a professional skateboarder from Australia, and I think you admitted to being a heroin addict. And the thing that really caught my eye, though, is that you idolized Howard the way I did.
Right.
Did you? Is
Yeah.
this true?
Yeah, I only know one radio guy, really. I've never really... I mean, I know other radio guys now because I'm in radio, but I only know Howard Stern. Everything else is just like a commercial radio. So, yeah, he was like Elvis of radio.
Yeah, I see him more like he's Elvis, but he's so soulful. So I don't know what is... I guess Elvis is very soulful, too, though. So
Some
fuck it.
people say.
Do you like Elvis?
Yeah, he's cool. Yeah.
I like Elvis, too.
Listen to him.
And I always had it in my head that I wanted to be like Howard, so I noted that we had a similar ambition. I wound up falling down a hole of total drug abuse, and you wound up getting a show on Sirius. How did you do it?
How old are you?
I'm 44.
When were you on heroin? Because my story, when I told Howard Stern that I did heroin, I was many, many years past that. And usually if you do heroin, even if you turn your life around, shit doesn't just pop up rosy straight away. It used to be a period of digging deep and working your way back into society. So I feel like by the time I was on the Stern Show talking about doing heroin with prostitutes, because I know the story you're talking about, that was a long time ago. When I was telling that story, I was a different person. Like when I told that story, if you couldn't pay me to do heroin again.
Give me the timeline a little bit.
Shit, I mean, Stern Show when I talked about doing heroin. I'm trying to think how many years ago that was.
I think it was
do you know how many
probably...
years that ago?
I bet it was like in the... I would say it was in the maybe 2000, possibly 2000.
Okay, well, this is probably, when I did heroin, I was my first marriage. I'd say it was probably 20 years ago, something like that.
Okay, so the last time you did dope was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's cool. How did you get into it in the first place? You were a skateboarder? What was the story?
I moved back to, I've always done drugs. I've always drank, and when I was just a pro skateboarder, I did all the drugs anyone had, but I would never do heroin because I used to have a couple friends that shot up that made it look bad to me. I was like, oh, God, that's what it looks like when you do that? Fuck that. And then...
what looked bad about it, though? The blood, the needle?
Yeah, so one of my friends shot his girlfriend up in front of me, and they missed the vein, and then they had to find another vein, and the blood in the needle, and putting it in another hole, and them just not giving a shit about the other hole, and just being super concerned with what's in the needle to inject them. And then what they turned into afterwards, like they didn't turn into a conversation. Also, when they did it, they just fucking fell asleep. And I was like, all right, well, good talking to you guys. So I was like, why would I want to do that? Unless I really wanted to give up. And that's kind of, when I moved back to Australia from being a pro skateboarder, I felt like everything was kind of over. And the person I was with was a fucking nightmare. I just started smoking heroin. Because somebody told me that someone told me that in America, I smoked black tar heroin. So I knew you could chase the dragon. So when I got super sad living in Australia, because there was nobody that skateboarded anymore, and so I just hung out by myself all day. So I couldn't stay sober enough for skateboarding for people to show up and skate. So I just started getting high all day, and then I got my heroin from prostitutes because I didn't want to tell anybody that I was doing heroin.
Right.
And then I was like, fuck this dragon shit, let's shoot up. And then I got 2 hookers and a bunch of heroin, and I thought to myself, these are junkies, so they won't give me all the heroin, so I won't OD. And then I passed out.
You figured they would keep enough heroin because they're greedy junkies, so like you wouldn't get enough to die, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I was really scared they were going to OD me, because I'd never done heroin injected before, but I just felt like these 2 were so into it that they were going to take it all from me. I was barely going to get a taste, but I got a giant taste. I passed out, woke up in a park. They robbed me, left me in some park where people that look like me in this park at like 3 a.m. can die. So I just got up and walked off in the dark and swore I would never do that again. That worked out.
Was that the only time? You only did it once?
Yeah, I only shot up once.
Oh my goodness! What was your drug career like before that or after that? Like,
well, after that, I didn't do heroin ever again. I've done painkillers, but I do painkillers because something's hurt. So
well, it sounds like all of your career, except for radio, involves a lot of pain. You know, falling off a skateboard or getting punched in the face, or having to fall down or getting kicked in the stomach or whatever. That's a lot of pain everywhere, right?
Yeah, I like that though.
You like the pain?
Alive. I still do it. It's my biggest thing is how do I do stuff that involves pain and danger without being too irresponsible and still walk the next day because I'm 47. I got all these injuries from falling over all the time.
What do you like about the pain?
I don't know so much about the actual pain, but it's just without the pain, then what would be the fear or the danger? Like there has to be a consequence. So that it's not so much the pain that I like; it's the dodging it, facing consequences that could be painful.
Right. It's like the wild aspect. Like, because I'm a total pussy, and I fear pain a lot, and like I've avoided getting hit my whole life. When I was a kid, I grew up in Manhattan, and we were all skateboarding. And I realized I fell off the board early, and I was one of these pussies that would skateboard around the neighborhood on my knees because I was scared to fall. Because I was scared to fall off the skateboard. You know what I mean? And this is a huge regret and a huge place for shame. But you and I,
it's to your own, man. I feel like because I did that at that Ellis Mania, because I had a couple fights, and not really being a fighter, I got to get a taste of what it's like. And some people. I feel like some guys have to have a fight. They might not know it, but they have to have one. But some guys don't, and they don't need, and they shouldn't, and they don't need to feel bad about it. Like it is kind of stupid if you're doing it in an angry way.
Well, I appreciate that because I've avoided. I've never had a fight in my whole life. I've never had.
You don't need to. It's like some people just don't. Like I used to not understand why people wouldn't want to do what I do. For the longest time, I'd be like, why wouldn't you want to jump off this? Why wouldn't you want to fly into the air? And I'm like, because some people don't, even if they could do it, it wouldn't interest them. It's kind of like, a Nickelback doesn't interest me, but it interests somebody.
Yeah, I don't understand that either.
Somebody does.
Yeah. What I was going to ask you, when you became a pro skater, how old were you?
I think, the first time I actually got paid, I was 16, so...
In Australia. We have a huge Australian fan base, by the way. I know you think our show is nothing. We got fucking at least 5,000 people right now listening in Australia.
Shut the fuck up.
I swear to God, the Dopey Nation. You have the Ellis fam, we have the Dopey Nation. I don't think you realize how the Dopey...
I didn't realize, you're right.
Yeah.
I didn't realize anything. I don't listen to anybody or anything. I just go to work and that's it. I just keep going.
Do you still listen to Howard?
Sometimes, not as much. I listen to music way more. I kind of got into, it's weird. I just listen to soul music whenever I'm in the car. I listen to audiobooks of Christopher Hitchens. That's all I've got right now.
You're listening to audiobooks of Christopher Hitchens and soul music. What kind of soul music?
What did it start as? Sly, Family Stone.
Yeah.
And one of my started with James Brown, but now I'm Curtis Mayfield. What else am I going? Is it Sam Cooke?
Yeah, sure. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
I love that stuff.
Yeah.
But I want to hear. I want to hear about your adventure coming to the States among like the upper echelon of skateboarders. What was that about?
You mean coming to America and trying to turn pro here?
Yeah.
Well, I came here with no money. Just I heard a friend of mine knew Lance Mountain and said that we could stay at Lance's house when we got there. So my parents were like, okay, sounds like you're okay. And I saved up for a plane ticket. I think my father gave me a credit card that no longer worked and said just show them that if they ask for money and break it. Just make sure you snap it and put it in the trash when you get out of the airport.
Well, what do you mean? What do you mean? He gives you the credit
he was like,
card.
you're not using it. He's like, that was one of the things I always remember my father saying. It was good. You should never have a credit card. Right. He obviously had a lot of credit card debt when he was alive. So I always remembered. I can't lie, And I probably shouldn't get into credit card debt. Just certain things that I've always believed about myself, and I feel like that has paid off.
Nice.
Yeah. So, I came here, slept on Lance's house, and slept on people's couches, and then I went to a contest where Ben Schroeder and his brothers did the craziest shit I've ever seen. His brother fell off in the mini ramp contest and ran up the vert ramp and jumped off the handrail of the vert ramp over to the mini ramp, landed on the flat bottom of the mini ramp, broke the flat bottom, broke his trucks, and then his brother Ben Schroeder pulled the fence down in celebration while watching his brother skate in the mini ramp contest. And I was like, these dudes are the coolest dudes in the world. And then I think I got in an argument with my friend, so I was just walking down the street by myself. And then Ben drove by in a car and was like, what are you doing, fucking foreigner? That's what he called me. And he was like, come live with me. I lived with him at his parents' house for 6 months.
Wow, that's sweet.
Awesome.
And how did you wind up becoming you hold the Guinness Book of World Records for dropping into a 70-foot ramp? What is that about?
That's bullshit. Danny Way jumped out of a helicopter, and I guess they called that a world record bomb drop. So then Guinness Book of Records called him and said, do you want to break your own record? We'll pay you 10 grand. And Danny was like, 10 grand? Go fuck yourselves. And he's like, I know somebody who'll do that for 10 grand though. So
that was you?
I was friends with Danny. Danny just called me and said, hey man, you want to make 10 grand? I'm like, fuck yeah, I do. He's like, just jump off this thing and break my record. Who gives a shit? Because it's not a record. It's you know what I mean? Like, he understands. Let's be realistic here. I was pretty good, and at the time, was that the record? Yeah, sure. But who's better? Danny Way. That's the end of the story.
I hear you. So I
had a record. It's in a book, but it's not real.
Now, one thing I could it's real. You did it. You're in the book. You got paid. It's real. You know what I mean? Don't put yourself down. It's something, right?
It's all right. I can live with it. It's okay.
The question I have is I want to hear about how was there a ton of drugs on the circuit? How did you become somebody who wound up being a drug addict?
Well, everybody drank in Australia, and I think I didn't realize until I came here that I drank kind of fast. And it was kind of okay to go from 0 to 100 where I was from, and then the people I just linked up with skateboarders that were interested in the same thing. After skateboarding at night, whoever's up is that person, and drinking turned into trying to stay awake, and then drugs started showing up. And I'd already done ecstasy and stuff in Australia, and I did mushrooms. First time I did mushrooms was in America too, but when the cocaine showed up is when everybody started going too far. That to me I did a bunch of E-bombers, but it wasn't, I still skateboarded all the time. I didn't not go to the ramp, but the cocaine when I was in San Diego, that was when it kind of got, I remember telling everybody, we're going too far. And one time I hooked up with a girl and I got some coke and I did a line and she was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I'm like, what? It's like, nobody does cocaine like that. I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Because I just used to blow a bunch of it out of my face. Right.
You did some massive fucking lines or whatever. And
and we would just stay up for a couple of days and be stupid, pull my nose hairs out and shit. And then smoking crack because my nose didn't work anymore.
Right.
Just that, things like that where I'm like, man, that's going way too far.
How long I did the same stuff. How long did it go for?
10 years?
Right.
I mean, maybe longer. I guess when I got older, I started to back it off a little bit because I felt like I started to get sick from it. But
did you feel like you had any sort of classic bottom with all this stuff? Like what?
I remember the cocaine one where I was like, if everybody's in this house and nobody goes anywhere and does anything, and everybody's going under. And we went to a trade show. I paid to go to a San Diego trade show to skate, but instead of skateboarding, I was in the room, in a hotel room with my friend who was a videographer, and he left the room one time, and I saw him cross to go to the trade show and watched him turn around and come back in. So we did 3 days in there, and I was like, I still love the trade show, and I didn't even go see it.
Right.
And I look like shit. And I had many rock bottoms that got me back in those ones are the ones where I was like, you know what, I'm not even going to drink anymore either. So, I do the full sober thing, get back on a mission, and then if I do well in a couple of contests, I get drunk. If somebody's got blow, we're back in it. Maybe not as hard as before. I won't do crack again. So it always, it would be a little bit less, but it was never completely over. It was just like a little tamer because after certain ones where, you tell the story to someone and they're like, dude, he could have died a lot of times in that one story. I'm like, yeah, I know, right? So it's always been every year a little bit better.
Is there a particular closer to death story that you can remember? Because our fans love the close to death stories, especially when you get to live. Because not everybody gets to live, right?
Yeah. I don't know about that one because I never went to a hospital for an OD.
Okay.
It's more like I really feel like the worst one was just letting those two hookers shoot me up because I don't know what happened and I must have been unconscious, so I don't know how great things were going, but all the other times I just...
Here, Jason, hold on for 1 second. You can see how professional I am. I'm recording at my father's kitchen, and the phone won't stop fucking ringing. But that's how popular my father is. Hold on. He does sometimes. My dad is a big fan favorite of the show. And he's also he's traveled to Australia. Now, what I'm interested in really, we love the horrible stories of drug abuse, and we love the stories of recovery. And your story of recovery is zigzagged, and in the unfortunately brief amount of research I did on you, I hate to admit that, but I didn't do enough research, so I apologize to you and to our fans and your fans. But I did listen to a couple of Howard Stern shows with you on it on my way home from work today, and you were talking about sexual trauma, like with your dad, and it's very serious stuff. I rarely talk about sexuality at all on Dopey for whatever reason, but you want to talk about that a little bit, or is it too much?
Molested by my father.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean to throw it out there like just on a plate, like that's ridiculous.
I mean, it happened. I didn't know that it happened until I was 40 that it was him, but really. Yeah, because I knew somebody did. I took a bunch of LSD and meth, and it was after some demo, and then I had an imaginary friend tell me that my father molested me. And my girlfriend was watching at the time, and then she told my mom, and my mom was like, I thought he would have forgotten that. So
hold on. You're 40 years old. You're tripping LSD.
No. I was 20. No, I was 23 when I found out I was molested. But then I didn't know it was my father until I was 40.
Well, how did you find out when you were 23? Could you explain that?
I don't remember it until the next day when my girlfriend told me you had an imaginary friend. You had a full-on conversation in the pool where everyone was trying to get you out. And then I said, I've got him. And then this person told me that my father molested me. And then my girlfriend told my mother, and my mother said, I thought he was too young to remember. It wasn't his father. It was the next door neighbor, and he said that it was his father. That was the whole mix-up.
Wow, like it's like a memory implant thing. Somebody trying to change.
And then all of a sudden I realized that this is an actual thing that has happened to me, and now I'm like, wait, Mom, really? The neighbor? Like, she's like, oh, he's babysitted, and I guess but you said it was your dad, and then I didn't think, I remember thinking, whatever. It didn't shake me that much when I knew that. I was just like, shit happens.
Right.
And then I remember my father saying, when I saw him the next time, he's like, do you think you got molested? And I was like, yeah. And he said, do you think it was me? I was like, nah. He's like, oh. And then that's it. I've never spoke about it again. And then I just moved on with my life, just knowing that, never really thinking about it. And then more and more through the years, I would just start to see things and be like, oh, wow. I actually remember things happening in the scenario of it. And then I got a divorce when I was 40, and I went to some rehab fucking facility because I started drinking again. I just put myself in rehab because I was worried I was going to do the stories that I was telling you. And I'm like, you can't do coke when you're 40. I just was like,
well, you can, obviously, but
I know, but I don't want. I got kids. I really want to stay alive. So I was like, I'm going to go to rehab, make sure I don't do anything too stupid. And then I saw some fucking therapist or whatever, and what is it when they do the
hypnosis, regression?
Hypnosis shit,
Okay.
yeah. So then I started to remember way more of who it was and what happened and the whole fucking thing. And it was him. It was my dad. It wasn't the fucking neighbor. And then I looked more into it, and my dad didn't even kill the neighbor or beat up the neighbor. My dad used to punch people in the face for looking funny at him.
Right.
So I just had to come to the unfortunate conclusion that it was him, and then I talked to my stepmom about it. She didn't believe me. My brother didn't believe me. And then they found out all this weird stuff about him because he passed away a couple, like 10 years before that. But
so your father was dead when you found out?
Yeah.
So that makes it not, you know, I'm sure it's easy. What does it do for you to find that out? Does it fuck you up? Are you in the bathtub? Where are you?
I'm in my jacuzzi.
Nice.
I'm living there.
All right.
Hey man, you're in your dad's kitchen. I'm in the jacuzzi. These are the streets.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing contrast. I'm on a rainy day on the 21st floor in Manhattan. You're in fucking Southern California in your jacuzzi, about to fucking talk to Playboy about your bisexual lifestyle.
Yeah, I'm a bit weird about that one.
Well,
lifestyle. It's not. I'm trying to help people. It ain't about my lifestyle. I don't want to be a rock and roll star with my penis. I just want people to not be mean to people for being gay or trans or whatever.
Well, that's a much nicer way than to gloat to Playboy about all the people you get to have sex with and such.
Well, some people don't want to have sex with the people they have sex with. You know that?
Explain.
A lot of guys don't want to have sex with guys. They should do it, right?
So explain. What do you mean?
It's not what it's all cracked up to be if you're not me.
Oh, of course. You do what you want to do, which is the whole point. How do you think, though, all that coming to terms with molestation had to do with your addiction? Do you think? Because I'm sure there's a ton of people who are listening who are addicts who had similar kinds of traumas, and the trauma triggered their addiction.
Oh hell yeah! No, it made me want to use totally again. Yeah, since I'm 47, the last 7 years, I started drinking again, smoking weed. I do shrooms. I totally started doing stuff again, and I started doing it too much too.
How old are your kids?
14 and 10.
All right, I have a 9-year-old and a 10-month-old. Okay.
Oh wow.
And I'm 44, and I've been sober off of everything for 4 years. Okay, or not even 4 years, 3.5 years. It'll be 4 years in the summer.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Because I also heard about on the Stern show that Dax Shepard, you know, recovery warrior
I went
guy.
to AA for a year and a half.
What'd you think?
I just got too sad being sober.
You didn't like it.
I just thought I can't do it. I couldn't live like that anymore. I did all the things that you do. You meditate and you eat or fucking exercise or whatever, and I was like, man, I'm just lame. Surely there can be like a happy medium here.
You weren't happy, joyous, and free when you were sober.
Fuck no. And I was doing so many other things that it was getting dangerous. Like I don't think I did it right. I don't think I did the steps right. I don't want to talk shit on anybody.
No.
But I felt like I wasn't getting what I wanted out of it fast enough. And in a year and a half, I was like, I don't know what step I'm at. I don't even really get to talk to the person that's my sponsor. I'm kind of over it.
I have problems with my sponsor too.
Smoking cigars and drinking O'Douls. It's just bullshit. And then I go to the meeting and they're all chewing that fucking Nicorette shit that makes my head spin.
Right.
I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna smoke weed. Fuck you guys. And I don't think it's right, but for me, it works for me. I'm a happier person day to day. I smoke weed if I go to the gym. I still work out. I do my show, my job. I never don't show up. I fucking come through all the time. And if I don't, well then I'm going to rehab for fucking marijuana if that ever happened.
What happened to me the last time I had went to rehab and I was a stoner, but I was a heroin addict and I took pills also. I just never drank. And I came out and I had to get time together to get custody of my kids to see them.
Wow.
So
okay, you went through a lot.
My girlfriend was like, I'm not going to let you see them without your father if you don't show 12 months clean, including weed. And I loved weed. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I was the stoner.
You got yourself in a different situation. I understand. Divorce Yep.
Well,
I'm very sorry for it, but
no.
no.
But what happened was I wound up kind of white knuckling it for 18 months, and then there was a hurricane, and I started smoking pot again, and I had gotten my 12 months, so I had gotten my visitation, and I was seeing my kids, or my kid at the time, and I was smoking pot, and then occasionally, like I would be internet dating, and I would hook up with somebody who had pills, so I would take pills every once in a while, and like I did dope once, and it was bad, but I was on some path where I was doing a couple of benzos in the month, a couple of Percocets in the month, and I was smoking pot, and then I was always trying to reconcile with she wasn't my wife, she was my daughter's mother, but I say my wife because it's easier. And I was always trying to reconcile, and then we were about to reconcile, and the shit fell apart, and she was like, that's it, you're losing custody again until you show time. And I was like, what am I holding on to this weed for if I can't have my family? So I just I went to AA, and I worked AA in a more comprehensive way than I had before, and I felt like, it was something that my old friend had said to me. He said, if you can smoke pot and not do anything else, hats off to you. But if you can't, that's when you need to take a look at it, which is kind of what you're saying.
Right. Yeah, no, if I got triggered into doing stuff that stopped me from being me, then then I would just go, I would rat myself out, man. I can't lie. I'm the worst liar ever.
Well, you did tell me on Monday we were supposed to do this, and I had problems at home, and you told me you had gone to some trans awards the night before, and you were totally hungover. So how? Yeah,
that was as hard as I go.
Well, so
that's what the last time I went that hard was when I went on vacation with my wife.
So you are remarried, right?
Yep.
And how's that?
Awesome.
Nice. And you just said, though, you feel like you're going a little too hard. Do you feel like that, or are you just saying that because I'm sober?
No, on that day I went too hard for sure. I put myself in check big time. I'm on notice.
And what does that look like?
It means don't drink anymore for a while. You're sketchy.
Right, because you're not drinking like a gentleman.
That was not a gentleman. Yeah, exactly. I usually, if I have a couple of beers, I get tired and I go to so it's no harm, no foul. But that was completely different. I was up too late. That's the other one. I even if I don't drink, I can't be up until 3 a.m.
Yeah,
wrecks everything.
I can't. I literally can't. My body shuts down. It just shuts down.
Yes. Well, I unfortunately made it to 3.
Explain this to me, though, because there's another piece from the beginning that I was just unsure of. I feel like rarely do you hear about an extreme athlete, because whatever you want to call about yourself, it's an extreme athlete. You're like this big, adventurous, athletic dude, correct?
Sure.
All right, whatever. Fuck it. Extreme athlete. And then your desire was to be on the radio.
Not really. I mean, my desire, I just knew it was more Tony Hawk knew. I knew I was funny, but I just never thought anybody would hire me. And Tony thought that I'd always be a great radio guy and offered me a job at Sirius. I didn't audition or anything. It was an accident. And then when I started on his show, the day I started, I could tell that this is the first time I've ever done anything where I actually had a natural talent at it, because at skateboarding I do not have it at all, and I made it to fucking top 3 in the world with no fucking talent, and I'm like, man, can I have a job in radio, because I feel like I could actually do something here.
And what do you think?
I think I'm doing pretty good.
Right on.
It was kind of right.
What's your favorite thing about doing your radio show?
Making dick jokes for millions of dollars.
Right. And I mean, did you get on Sirius? Were you on the Stern Show after you were on Sirius, or was it before?
No, I was on way before.
So you were always on Sirius from Tony Hawk.
Yep, I had Tony Hawk's show, and then I became a DJ, and then the DJ gig, I started talking in between songs too much, and then I argued with my boss's boss if I could keep talking. And he said, people seem to like it, go ahead. And then I just talked for a flat-out hour and played 2 songs, and I turned my DJ gig into a talk show without anybody really knowing. And it got big. It got bigger and bigger, and people at Sirius started giving me more and more power. And then someone was like, hey, you should go on the Stern Show. And I'm like, you think? And then I think the only reason I got on was because a friend of mine that had been on there who was friends with Howard, Bob Levy, pitched the put M&Ms in your foreskin, dude. And that's how I got on. That's how it really happened.
So you put M&Ms in your foreskin, and that's how you got on.
First, the reason I got on Stern is because I got butt naked and put a bunch of M&Ms in my foreskin. That's how you make it.
You know, I went on
But
Stern.
I had the same mindset that day as I did when I was in the X Games. Like I was playing for fucking keeps. I was like, I'm gonna make it right now. I'm gonna make it. I remember being in the taxi on the way back to the airport. I was like, you did it. Whatever the fuck I did.
No, but that's a whole fucking next level lifestyle, to be honest. To do what is necessary in the moment. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like I've failed at a million moments. I was on the Howard Stern show once.
Does. What'd you do?
I lied.
M&Ms in you did?
No, I don't have a foreskin, so I just dropped M&Ms on my penis, and they just kind of went to the ground. It was like
sad.
I came up with this ridiculous story. I had a show on I had some weird show on this cable network years and years ago, and I decided the only way that it would be as big as I wanted it to be was if I went on the Howard Stern show. And I figured I didn't have a foreskin to put M&Ms in, and I didn't want to drag my girlfriend to get naked, and I didn't want to get naked and stand with like a billboard that said I love Howard. So I decided to lie, and which you don't do. I used to do it a lot. And I decided like that I would lie and say that my show was taking a poll. My show aired on college campuses, and I said that that it was 1999, and I said that my audience had voted Howard to be. My show was called Shuffle. It was a music show, and they called it the Shuffle Entertainer of the Millennium was Howard Stern. And he loved it, you know. And I had a little bowling trophy made up that said "Shuffle Entertainer of the Millennium," and I was already drug addict at that point. And I stayed up the night before with my girlfriend doing heroin, and I felt too tired, so we started doing coke. And I think we probably dropped ecstasy at some point that night too. And we started walking up to K-Rock in Manhattan. And by the time I got there, I was just totally clear. You know what I mean? Like between the nervousness, the dope, the coke, and the ecstasy, I looked sober somehow. I was, you know,
okay.
And Howard believed me. He accepted the award, and he started thanking.
Wow.
He thanked Don Buchwald. He thanked Gary. He thanked Robin. And then all of a sudden, he thanks me. And that's when Robin goes, "Are you a fucking idiot, Howard? This kid is obviously high." And Howard kicked me out at that point.
She ratted you out.
She totally ratted me out, which was awesome. You know what I mean? Like,
that's awesome.
To be recognized as being high on the Howard Stern show for me was a total rite of passage. Of course, it led to, you know, many, many, many years of inactivity, only to reemerge as a sober podcast host with a waiter job on the side. So you understand? Yeah, I'm totally on fire. I want to ask you something else. When you were on the Stern show, you hadn't done dope in years. Were you using then the first time?
No.
Because that's when Artie was...
Wait a minute. I mean, I might have... I mean, when you talk about dope, no... Smoking weed? Do you mean?
No, I meant I meant hard drugs. You were just like a stoner.
By the time I was in radio, I was not doing hard drugs.
And Artie was there when you were there.
Yeah.
Did you sense Artie's like total?
He was on that day. I've been there 4 times. He had a couple good ones, couple bad ones. I could tell a little bit.
You know, we actually I spent 2 years trying to get Artie on Dopey, okay, and on the 3rd year we got him on.
How'd that go?
It was fucked up. It was Chris was still alive, my partner was still alive, and we went to Hoboken to interview him. Okay, and I was so naive, I didn't realize that they were both high. You know what I'm saying? And Artie was fucking. He seemed to be totally high on coke, and Chris I think was high on coke and dope, and I was sober, and that was the last time I saw Chris alive. But it was a pretty monumental interview. It was crazy. It's a crazy story. You know what I'm saying? Crazy.
Yeah, that's another level right there. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he's alive.
Artie? Well, I think he's getting help now. I think I have great hope that Artie's going to get it together.
I hope so, man. I've never seen anybody do that to their nose before. It looks crazy.
I know. It's like he wasn't chasing the dragon. I don't know how anyone chases the dragon. Like, I don't know how that's a preferred form of using.
I didn't know. That was the only way I thought you could consume it. I only knew one way. I wasn't trying to cancel anybody about how to get high. It was kind of secret, you know?
No, I hear you. I just, when we started doing dope, tar, what my friend did, I had a buddy, he was like, he would empty out an Afrin bottle of nasal spray, and he would put the tar in there with water, and we would just squirt the heroin up our noses at first.
Right.
And you didn't lose anything. You know, whatever.
I've snorted off a spring before. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's gross. So, like, you have a crazy audience, the Wolf Knives.
I guess so. I don't really want to name. The Wolf Knives is my clothing company, but yeah, some people are Wolf Knives, I guess, because they get a name and shit like that. Friends. A lot of people know each other, you know? Like, they all hang out with each other, but without the show. It's like their own family.
Well, that's fucking amazing. And I really do appreciate you coming on. I really do.
Awesome.
And, you know, fucking hell. How do I get a show on Sirius? What do I do?
Just like go on tour with Tony Hawk and break a couple bones.
Skateboard on my knees.
50 or so. Knock yourself out like 20 times.
Yeah.
Do a couple of them on TV.
Yeah.
Say some tough shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't see it happening for me. But
it's overrated.
No, shut the fuck up. You're in your jacuzzi, you know, about to do a interview about pansexual lifestyles and then taking bong hits. Fucking what did the sober community in LA say when you know, started drinking and smoking weed? Did they give you shit or no?
I haven't seen them. The only thing at one point Dax stopped talking to me and he thought that I was using it and I wasn't. But he thought that I was only hanging out with him because he was famous, and I was like, oh man, like, you guys are all total letdowns. Like, it made it worse to me. Made me less attracted to sober people. But all the people that I was friends with in those meetings, I think they were awesome people. I really felt a bonding with a lot of those guys in there. So
you miss them?
Yeah, they were friends. I don't have many friends. I don't really like hanging out with people. I'm not really social. I don't go out that much. So I had some dude friends there for a little bit, and we all talked about some shit on a Tuesday. I do miss that a little bit, but... Well,
you know that you can always go back. You know, what the fuck?
I've heard that.
You can go back if you want, you know. Do you know Steve Jones? He's the guitar player from the Sex Pistols. He's got like the best radio show in LA. You never heard Jonesy's Jukebox? Dude, you've never heard Jonesy's Jukebox? Where do you live?
I don't know. In a cave.
But where do you live? You live in Los Angeles, right?
Oh, yeah, Hollywood, yeah.
No, listen to Jonesy's Jukebox. I think it's on 95.5. He was
terrestrial radio?
Yeah, man. Listen to him. He's great. No, you're not going to listen to him?
Commercials.
I hear you. Anyway, I really do appreciate you coming on. And I know you don't want to be my friend, but if you ever want to give me a call, you ever need anything, I'm always here for you. You know what I'm saying?
Thanks, dude. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
That's very nice.
Cool, man. So thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
No worries, dude.
Have a good one.
Take it easy.
Later, man. All right, so there we have the not sober but very cool Jason Ellis of Australia, professional skateboarding, and the Jason Ellis Show. And now we also have another person from California, Dopey, original regular guest, and my old sweet friend, Aurora.
Hey, Dave. Hi, Dopey Nation.
What's going on, Rory?
Oh, you know, just chilling here in SoCal.
Yeah.
Not in a jacuzzi, but...
Yeah, you've been seeing Jason Ellis skateboard by you in the freeway and such?
No, I think he lives by the beach. I think he's got a sweeter life.
Sweeter and still not sober. Does that make you rethink your decision to be clean and sober? Because maybe if you were smoking weed and drinking, you'd be in a jacuzzi someplace hosting a show on Sirius? No?
No way. No way.
I'm thinking about trading it all in so I can get the jacuzzi and the Sirius show. Because I want both of those things. And also,
that's what you'll get?
Huh?
You think that's what you'll get?
If I relapse, do you think I'll be hosting a show on Sirius and in a jacuzzi?
Yeah, I fucking doubt it.
I doubt it. but it's still a fun idea, you know.
I think you'll go from Suffolk to Nassau County. That'll be what happens to you.
Dude, I'd probably go from Suffolk County to I don't think I'd go to Nassau. I think I'd wind up back where I am right now at my father's house. I think I'd wind up back in my old bedroom.
Oh boy.
But I thought it was an interesting guest, and I really believe that it's very interesting to be in recovery, and it's like it really conjures up, so many people say they're in recovery and they use X, Y, and Z. I'm in recovery, but I drink a little bit. I'm in recovery, but I smoke a little bit. Stuff like that. Have you noticed things like that?
Oh yeah, especially lately. I've been around a lot of people who are trying to get sober, and they're not, using heroin or meth, but they are getting stoned. And they don't seem to understand that that's not sober, and that if you're just, going to outpatient or you're going to some meetings, it's not the same as being in the middle and actually working the 12 steps of a 12-step program.
Well, that was the other thing where he said he was going to meetings and he had gotten, I think, 2 years clean, but he hadn't worked the steps. And it's like I scoff at him now. It's like, you were going to meetings and you didn't work the steps. But it's like I went to meetings forever and I didn't work the steps. Like I didn't realize that I was supposed. I mean, I knew I was supposed to, but I didn't think I had to. And I didn't really think there would be. I didn't anticipate the psychic change that actually happened from it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then now I talk to people who are struggling, and I always kind of give them all that basic 12-step stuff, which is like go to meetings and do what's suggested and things get easier. That's what I always say. You go to meetings and you do what's suggested and things will get easier. And that's just, it's annoying, though, that I've become a person that says that, even though it totally worked for me.
Well, I mean, you learned it the long way and maybe the hard way, and so you want to let other people know what your experience is. I wish in retrospect I had worked the steps earlier and maybe I would have been sober 10 years earlier,
Well, were you ever exposed to 12-step stuff then?
I would go with my great aunt. She would take me to her AA meetings when I was a kid. So I went to a few of them, and then I went to a couple Alateen meetings. But I always felt like
Alateen meetings because your parents were both addicts and alcoholics.
Right. And I felt shame. I felt like everybody was like, oh, this poor little girl, her mom's that terrible drug addict, I felt a lot of defiance and a lot of shame, Yeah. So, and I didn't really get the steps either, I didn't get, and it's only through 3 years of being sober. It's only in the last year that I've gone through so many painful experiences that I actually started relying on the steps for the relief, definitely the first 2 years, it was it was like a chore to do the steps. Now I kind of step work helps me. It relieves this, this pain and this uncomfortability. So I want to do it.
When I came in, I was in so much pain that the steps totally worked to relieve me of the pain, of my psychic misery. And now I'm actually redoing the steps. I have this new sponsor on Long Island, and he's like this very muscly tattooed guy, right? He has
Jason Ellis.
He has tattoos all over his neck. He's got tattoos on his knuckles that say "real deal." He's got tattoos up his wrists. He's like one of these he's like a contractor from Long Island, but he's got 15 years clean and he seems incredibly happy and he's totally in tune with the steps. So I'm redoing him. Fuck it.
I love how in that interview you're like, yeah, I've got 4 years sober. Then you're like, oh wait, well I guess I really only have 3.5.
Well, yeah, I'm counting on the next 6 months to go smoothly. It's funny as time goes by, you kind of project onto your clean time, I guess. So Aurora has been gone for a long time in California. She lived in New York forever. Me and her used to go to the same meeting, and she moved to California on a long-time production job. And recently, that has changed. Right, Rory?
Yep, the gig ended, and so I'm searching for my next one. So I haven't been working for the past 6 weeks, which is not comfortable for me. There's a lot of uncertainty about what will be the next job and when it will start, and financial insecurity and a lot of unstructured free time, which I don't love. But, that being said, it's been nice to have time off, and, it's brought out, I can see like the growth that I'm doing better between gigs than I used to do.
I just want to say, hold on, really quickly. I want to just say, Aurora works in television production, and it's always like a freelance gig. So a gig starts, and then a gig ends, and then there's a little bit of time between the gig, and I've been friends with Aurora a long time, and I know every time a gig ends, there's like that panic that the next one isn't around the corner, as quickly as you'd like, right?
Yep.
So,
but
please.
Evidence shows I've always worked. I've always gotten the next job, although sometimes it feels like, oh, God, I'm never going to work again. But, I've seen growth. Like, I'm more comfortable in this uncertainty than I've ever been. And, it's given me, and it also brings out my character defects too, right? Like, yesterday I felt crazy when I woke up, and I felt like I hadn't been focused enough on job searching in the last week. And so, I changed up my schedule and my routine for yesterday, and I spent more time, sending out emails and looking for stuff. And I felt better, I knew yesterday, I was like, I feel fucking crazy. I'm in pain. I'm uncomfortable. If I do things even just a little bit differently, I know that I'll feel better. And it worked, I did. And, having this time off, I've been going to a lot of meetings, going to like women's step study, and I've gotten a few sponsees in the last few weeks, which is something I really wanted, and it's been tremendous.
Why don't you tell us how you've gotten the sponsees?
Just by being, involved, going to these regular meetings where there's a lot of people, there's a big meeting, and there's a lot of people that are in sober livings and just out of rehab.
I thought there was some Shabbat thing.
Well, I'm friends with some folks that own sober livings, and so I've been going to their house for like a women's big book meeting, and then on Fridays they have Shabbat dinner, and so I've been invited a couple times to Shabbat. And so some of the
do you dazzle them with your knowledge of Judaism at the Shabbat dinner?
I think I went to Shabbat dinner with you once, like 20 years ago, and that's the only other Shabbat dinner I've been to.
I don't know. I don't know why. I don't think I ever went to. I don't think I've been to a Shabbat dinner myself since I was a little kid.
Or maybe once I went with you to Passover or something.
Yeah, you definitely went to a Passover. But so did you dazzle them with your knowledge of New York City Judaism or no?
I think I like tried to pull out what little Yiddish I knew.
Right.
But no, I did not dazzle them.
You didn't dazzle the California Jews.
They dazzled me. The food was so good.
All right. And what did you eat? Just because I know my dad's listening, and he'd love to hear about whatever Jewish food you might have eaten on Shabbat dinner. What did you eat?
The best challah from the best Jewish bakery in Los Angeles with homemade tahini, baba ganoush. We had beet soup, basically like a vegetarian borscht. We had brisket, salmon. That had a little curry on it. I don't know if that's a little unorthodox.
It all sounds very, very like hipster Jewish shit. Baba ganoush on Shabbat. Maybe I just came from, I think my Jewish roots are too buried in fucking Flushing, Queens, where we didn't have anything like that. But whatever. It sounds like it's cool to be a part of it. And tell us about your sponsees.
Yeah, I've got 3 sponsees, and they all have less than 60 days time.
Wow.
And
is that crazy?
Yeah, they're all in sober living, and they all have a lot going on in their lives, and it's been cool, and I'm like, how do I do this? Oh my God, like, what do I do? And I'm just like, okay, all I can do is give my experience strength and hope, and kind of refer to how my sponsor led me through the steps, and and then put my own twist on it too, and I think like I'm just trying to get to know them and have them get to know me, so like we build a trust and we're comfortable with each other. And also, like, I think like a Living Sober book, like Living Sober seems to be a lot bigger in New York than it is in Los Angeles, so like I've been reading Living Sober with them. It has some good suggestions, and also like it goes over like what a sponsor is and isn't, which a friend of mine out here suggested to me that's what he does with his sponsees, and I thought that was kind of a good idea. And I go to the book study with some of them, and so they are familiar with the big book, but one of them is like, I read the big book and none of it makes any sense to me. So I get that in early sobriety, sometimes the big book seems like, what the fuck is this?
Well, nothing made sense to me in early recovery, like literally. Yeah. But so what did you tell her?
I said, don't worry about it. I said, you should try to find a home group meeting that you like. Let's keep meeting once a week. I think I'm going to read step 1 with her out of the 12 and 12. And I think I think once she's got like a week and a half, I think once she has a little more clean time, like, all right, read the doctor's opinion and Bill's story and let's talk about it. And,
do you read it with them?
Yeah.
You got to do that, I think. I mean, I don't have a sponsee. I don't think I had a sponsee for like a day. And I think you got, I mean, what I've done, well, I guess my new sponsor isn't doing this. And I think it was really my worst sponsor that I ever had did this. They sat and they read the book with me and explained it. But I think if I ever get the chance to sponsor anybody, I would do it like that.
Well, I think you'll be a great sponsor.
Well, I've been sponsoring you for years.
That's true. You're my side sponsor. You're one of my spiritual advisors.
Yeah, that's sad. The funniest thing to me is I've known you for a long time, right? I can't think of anything you've ever been this devout about in your life, except for being a stoner. Like, can you think of anything you've ever... I mean, like, listen to you. You're talking about living sober, the 12 and 12 in the big book, in the same sentence where you know all this shit. Have you ever been such a owner of, like, esoteric knowledge of anything like this?
No. I mean, it's crazy. It really... I mean, it is a new... freedom, a new happiness, a new life, like that psychic change. It's fucking crazy. And I don't know, Dave, if you found yourself saying something out loud and then you'd like look around like, who the fuck just said that? Yep.
Go.
And it's me. I said that. And it's wisdom that I picked up, from AA and from the growth that I've had by working the program. One thing that I've found is like, and you're right. Like when I'm bragging that I have 4 years when I have 3.5 or whatever, and I also find myself doing things that aren't, as spiritually upright as I could be doing. I find myself getting angrier than I've been in a long time. I find myself holding on to resentments. And having resentments that I just shouldn't be holding on to and getting really mad. And when I told the new sponsor about it, he said something that I've heard before, and I wonder if you've heard this too, that you hear about, you see a lot of people at meetings who have under 5 years clean, and then you see a lot of people at meetings who have over 10, but you rarely see the people between 5 and 10. Yes.
And he said that when he was at a point like that he, his ego became bigger and he strayed from AA and this and that. And he said that it was good that I found somebody to work with again. And I think he's right, because I need to, like, I don't want to fuck this thing up. And even if I'm, like, abstinent, if I have these feelings, I'm not exactly sober,
Exactly, yeah. I saw my friend Brendan speak this week, and I'd never heard him speak before. And he was, a friend. He's a friend of 20 years. so I knew him when he was drunk. And I heard him speak, and he said something that really struck me. He said, whenever I have a thought, whatever thought I'm having, I think to myself, does this thought enhance my sobriety? Does it support my sobriety? And it just I was like, whoa.
I find that shit to be very hard. And it's like, I'm so stuck between just disgust. Because at my meeting, what they say is, does that thought bring me closer to a drink or further away from a drink? And I'm like, fuck you. I'm not close to a drink. It doesn't make me further away from a drink. I don't like that kind of talk. But when your friend says, what does he say exactly?
Does this thought enhance my sobriety?
Right. That just becomes like a freaky idea of self-policing that I'm not exactly comfortable with, but it's the next level. You know what I mean? That's the next level of spirituality, of sobriety, whatever.
Exactly. I think that's why it really struck a chord with me.
Now, I'm going to change the subject for a second.
I want to tell a quick story.
All right, great.
So I was working with one of my sponsees this week, and we were reading Living Sober, her and I, back and forth. And this woman was sitting next to us in the coffee shop charging her phone, and she leans over. She's like, "Excuse me, are you guys trying to quit drinking?" And we're like, well, we're not drinking. And she was like, "Oh, yeah, I haven't had a drink in 15 years, and I was going to suggest to you, I did hypnosis, and that's what helped me to stop drinking. I haven't had a drop since I was hypnotized." And she was like, a lot of my friends would go to AA, and I went to some of those meetings, but that would never work for me. AA would never work for me, but hypnosis did. And, so she and I go back to working together, yada, yada, yada. The next day, I'm in the morning meeting, and who is fucking sitting there but this woman from the coffee shop, sitting in the meeting. And I just thought, you got to be kidding me. I don't know what that was about, and if she felt compelled after seeing us reading literature to check out a meeting, or I don't know, but it was just insanity.
So you didn't confront her?
No.
You didn't say, "What the fuck, bitch? I thought you don't like meetings."
My sponsee said to me, "You know what? When she said she got hypnotized, I thought, what the fuck am I doing any of this shit for? I should just get hypnotized and be done with it." And then, there she was in the fucking morning meeting, and I was like, you see, it only works if you work it. Here is this woman who said, A didn't work for her, and here she is, sitting in this meeting.
I wish you had confronted her, though, because maybe she was lying the day before. What a weird thing. That's a really weird story, I think.
Yeah.
I want to get hypnotized, though. I would love to get hypnotized. I'm not exactly sure what I would do with it, but maybe I would get off chocolate. I'd get off sweets. Maybe I could be more of a, a pious person, more of have more of a program. Maybe I could get hypnotized to have more of a program.
Maybe you could get hypnotized to be less of a pussy.
Maybe I could.
Not ride a skateboard on your knees. That made me crack up.
I was re-listening to the interview, and we were 11 years old doing that. It makes me sound like I was 19 on my knees. We were 11 in Stuyvesant Town, me and Robbie and Dave, and fuck it, I can't. I shouldn't have said that. And then you're mocking me in this part. How dare you?
Can we fucking talk about how we're 10 days away from the Game of Thrones premiere?
That's not yet. We're going to get to that. But yes, we can. What do you know? What do you know about the game? First of all, what did you think about hearing that I was so much of a pussy that I skateboarded on my knees? What did that make you think?
No, it endeared you to me even more, Dave.
Okay. So Game of Thrones premiere is coming up. Are you prepared?
I'm ready. I'm so ready. I mean, I have rewatched every season probably twice. I'm pumped up. I have a new theory.
You have what?
I have a new theory.
Okay.
I think, about what I think is going to happen in the end, and I'm just super excited.
All right, what's your theory?
I think that maybe we're going to end up with the wolf pack. That in the end, it's going to be Arya, and Jon Snow and Sansa, and that maybe Daenerys is going to have a baby, and she'll die, but the baby will live, and we'll be left with the wolf pack.
But Jon Snow isn't even a Stark. He's a fucking whatever she is.
I know.
What is she called again? What is she?
So maybe it's just Arya, Sansa, and the baby, and Jon is dead. And Daenerys. I don't know.
Well, what makes you think that?
I don't know. It's just an intuition, just a feeling. There's like so many theories, and I'm sure I would love to hear what the Dopey Nation thinks.
Well, Dopey Nation, if you have any thoughts about what's going to happen with Game of Thrones, you should write Aurora an email. Aurora, because I don't want to hear about it. What's your email address, Aurora? Give it out on the show. Seriously, I love Game of Thrones. You and I spent lots of time watching Game of Thrones. But if I want to be really, really truthful, that last season was disappointing to me. I didn't like it. I did not like the way they set up the relationship between Jon and fucking Daenerys. I thought there was no chemistry. I thought they rushed that shit in a way that I didn't like. I just think they did a lot of weird shit there. And I hope that this last season is satisfying. You understand?
I understand. I hope it's also satisfying.
You know what I'm doing now? I've doubled back and I'm watching Mad Men again.
I haven't gone there yet.
I find Mad Men to be the most relaxing of all of these shows because it's like creativity and inspiration and history and like broken family, and I really, 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 really find it relaxing. But I've got problems because I keep watching the same 5 shows over and over and over.
I mean, I just watched the show Formula One Racing doc on Netflix. Talk about fucking 0 to 100. I love that shit. I love that show.
It's good?
Very good. So good.
You want to hear a crazy story?
Yeah.
It's kind of akin, I don't know if it's really akin to your 12-step meeting hypnotist story, but yesterday I was with, you remember Toast that I work with, the guy Toast?
No.
I work with this guy Toast. He's a meat cutter. And the two of us went to do a catering event at Viacom, okay?
Uh-huh.
And we're doing a party at Viacom, and there's this huge line to get sandwiches, and this dude goes to the front of the line, okay? And he looks at me, and you know what he says?
What?
Stay strong, Dopey Nation.
Whoa!
And I said, shh, don't tell anybody. And he said, yeah, nobody can know about me either. And he walked away, and Toast was like, oh, shit, that's like old school. Like that it was like some secret society or like Fight Club. And the Dopey Nation is like a fucking secret society, Aurora. What do you think about that?
That is so fucking cool. I love that.
It really
that story.
Doesn't it amaze you at how big this shit is getting?
I was amazed when you told Jason that you had 5,000 Aussie Dopey Nation fans.
I don't think that's really true, by the way.
Oh.
I think we have less. If you're an Australian Dopey fan, you should write an email to dopeypodcast@gmail.com because I should be taking a head count. There's no way we have 5,000 Australian fans. I would guess it's 1,500, but that's still a decent number, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not quite 5,000, but it's a decent number. Now, you've been listening to the show more now that you have time on your hands, correct?
Yes, I have.
And any thoughts, any questions, anything you want to know? What were your thoughts on Mr. Lenny Dykstra?
Lenny, I mean, I like the Lenny, you know, it made me uncomfortable. He had that, like, you know, Bradley Cooper in A Star Is Born, like, fucking gross high voice that really skeeved me out in the beginning, but then I, like, settled into it. You know, I thought it was a good interview. I thought it was interesting. I thought there was a lot of justification still in his part for not being sober, you know.
Did you hear there's a big Lenny Dykstra story in the news right now? Have you heard it?
No.
Well, apparently in the news there's a pitcher who used to play for the Mets named Ron Darling. Mm-hmm. And and he wrote a book about himself. And in the book, he says that Lenny Dykstra had been hurling racial epithets. Is that the word, epithets? Do you know that word?
I do know that word.
Anyway,
but I don't know how to pronounce it correctly. Epitaphs?
I always thought it was epitaphs too, but recently Sam told me that it's not epitaphs, it's epithets. I always thought it was epitaphs too. Dopey Nation, if you have a hunch on this, you should write us an email. Epithet versus epitaph. Anyway, he was supposedly, according to Ron Darling, hurling racial slurs at a pitcher named Oil Can Boyd. And so this is this big, crazy controversy in New York sports now. Does that interest you?
No.
One day I'm going to tell this Lenny Dykstra story, but it seems like today is not the day to tell it.
Not the day.
So did you see that I sent you some stuff? Did you listen to any of the stuff that I sent you?
I read the email, and I did not listen to the voicemail yet.
All right, why don't you read the email I sent you?
Okay.
You have it?
Yep, give me one moment. So I'm going to pull it up.
All right, hit it.
Okay. Dear Dave, and I wish to God damn badly that I was addressing Chris here too. Like many others, I caught wind of Dopey via This American Life. At the time of my first listening, I was a round-the-clock drinker and weed smoker. The only time I wouldn't drink is when I was at work, but I always made sure to get a good load on beforehand. Marijuana vape cartridges, or carts as we call them where I'm from, made it incredibly easy and convenient to stay pretty fucking stoned all day. I started going through the Dopey episodes from the very beginning, and now I'm at episode 77. When I first started listening, I was just along for the ride for y'all's stories and paying a little attention to the recovery undertones. Chris once said that an alcoholic is someone who continues to drink despite negative consequences. This was good news to me, as I convinced myself that my substance abuse really hadn't caused anything terrible in my life. However, as I stayed on for the continuing episodes, there were nuggets of recovery wisdom that y'all shared along the way that really struck a chord with me. So much so that I'm writing to you now with 9 days of complete sobriety. I know that is nothing compared to the time that you and others in the community have shared, but it's the longest I've gone since I was at least 13, and now I'm 25.
Well, how many days?
9 days.
All right, right on, man. Continue.
The main purpose of me writing to you now is to express my utmost gratitude for helping me open my mind and turning my life around for the better. I have everything to lose by continuing abusing drugs and alcohol and nothing to gain. And just because tragedy has not struck my life yet doesn't mean it never will. Thanks again, Tractor Jack.
Tractor Jack, thank you for the email. Isn't that a beautiful email, Aurora?
Super beautiful. And 9 days is a big deal.
9 days is a big deal, you know? He's definitely not projecting onto his 2 weeks like I projected onto my 4 years. He's not like I have 2 weeks when he has 9 days like I did, right?
Exactly.
He's staying in the moment. Tractor Jack, we'd love to hear from you again. Let us know how you're doing if you ever listen to this. Does the growth of Dopey amaze you?
I'm really proud of you, Dave. You've worked hard.
What about the show itself? What about the music at the beginning of the shows? What do you think about that?
I love the music at the beginning.
Yeah.
I love the Chopped and Screwed.
Oh, you want to do a Chopped and... Let's do a Chopped and Screwed while we're there.
Okay.
Here we go. Hold on. I just want to say that this is not my favorite Chopped and Screwed. I love this Chopped and Screwed because I know everything that we're laughing about, and all of the really old school Dopey fans will probably remember the stuff we were laughing about, but new fans might not really get what we're laughing about, so I really recommend you go back and you listen to some old Dopey. So here we go. I'm skipping Chopped and Screwed episode 6, which is titled Dave's Shtick, which I just think is too much of my own shtick. So we're going to go right to Chopped and Screwed number 7, which is If We Were on Drugs. So here we go. Chopped and Screwed number 7 from our buddy Woosta. All right, here we go. Thank you, Woosta. We want more from you. If anybody out there in the Dopey Nation is good at like cutting up audio Why don't you hit us up? We will hand over the Dopey archives to you, and you can create a little audio collage. What? You want to do something with those one-liners?
So this is like a chopped and screwed episode.
So we'll call it the Chopped and Screwed episode. I swear to God, this Dopey episode would be like what Dopey would be if we were on drugs.
But, ooh, who's that? It's time for Sober Link.
Sober Link.
Well, I'll do it later. Did you see The Lion King?
I did. I saw the movie finally with my.
Oh, did you see the play?
No.
Yeah, see the play. Actually, I didn't even like it that much. Dude, they say that in The Lion King there's some sort of like you volunteered for the
It's atrocious.
It was atrocious.
It was. I was a real pot snob, and I was like, no, I'm not buying that. Chris is so funny because he's so easily amused. He goes, "You crazy?" It's funny.
And when
the dog name was Chili's.
No, he was. No, his name is Hoodie.
Oh yes, there's no smell. It's medium.
And I was talking one night, and I remember this guy like interrupted me, and he's like, "Chris," he's like, "You got to talk about something else besides drugs." And and he was genuine, he was being nice, you know what I mean? And so like I decided, I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna listen to this guy. And I remember I had absolutely nothing to say.
You're like, could you pass me the bread and butter, please?
That was good.
I couldn't find any matching.
Siri's a dumb bitch.
Fucking Siri, man. Fucking Siri sucks.
So anyways, there was
last episode I told him to go suck a dick.
It was shit, and I think I accidentally was fingering her asshole. And
oh my god, that's brutal, dude.
Yeah,
that's tough.
This story is beyond.
Yeah,
beyond. I like it. Except that she's dead.
PCP. Yeah.
We all know that word just from fucking trading places.
Exactly. You know what this shit does to kids? The limitless load. 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 It's a limitless load. I was like, wow, I must be experiencing HPPD or hallucinogen persisting perceptual disorder. Dude, you got plugged in with GOD. HP.
Chris plays Mark David Chapman to Artie's John Lennon, and he says, "Mr. Lang, I have something for you."
I think that's exactly what I said.
You said that.
I think I said, "Artie, I got something for you."
You said, "Artie, I have something for you."
Don't reject me. I think I did too much.
It was Flocka. Hold on, I have a note though. First, I would like you to read the email we got. No. Hold on. No. I just have a question. All right, I got stuff. I got stuff.
He was on the episode the sober living resident who drank his own piss. On this, please email us at which I always respect about him. You know, schoolboy bitches, schoolgirl biscuits, and I think that early on, medication assisted treatment is super helpful for cravings.
Edutainment at its
worst.
The
edutainment epidemic.
The pan-edutainment-demic. Hold on. Dopey Nation, if you've ever spit on drugs and tried to draw that up, write us an email.
It doesn't work.
I can't even believe that this is the story I'm hearing. Oh my God, something happened that I didn't tell you about.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, no, who am I talking to? Who's here? I'm talking to you.
Why would I do that? It's so fucking hurtful. I feel like a total fucking pussy
I don't know. I'm just a waiter.
Espensa de tierra, sereños, camaradas, la raza, buenos noches, entugu, jema, usiku, asante, sakitu.
What does it mean?
I don't know.
I found free weed.
Dude, oh my god, I cream my pants.
You know, taking hallucinogenics is like spiritual pornography.
I always wished I was a midget. Because if I was a midget, I could fucking... You think how much more bang for your buck you get? You know what I mean? Like, your drugs go twice as far.
Exactly. As soon as he's like, I used to have 5 needles of coke ready to shoot up in the car at once. They'd be like, I know he doesn't kill anybody. He's just a drug addict.
I pay attention to drugs and me. I'm sorry.
I like you, and I hope you like me too, because I like you, so you'll like me. Love me. Love me.
So that's not the easiest chopped and screwed to really decipher, but the joy is there, right?
Oh, the joy is there.
And speaking of joy, I don't know if you heard this thing I sent you. Did you hear this thing I sent you? Did you listen to it?
Voicemail? No, I didn't have time.
All right. Well, this is something that I've been wanting to talk about for a long time, and I used to tell Chris about it all the time. But as Aurora knows, I work with a waiter named Ishmael, and he's from Egypt, and he's a very, very funny and peculiar fellow. And the other morning, I was working with him, and once in a while when we're working, the kitchen will bring out fried chicken, okay? You listening?
Yum, yeah.
And I love fried chicken. And I was starving this morning, okay? So I take out a piece of fried chicken for myself and I put it on a plate. And then I take out one for Ishmael and I take out another one. And they were like 2 wings and a leg. And I went and I start working. And when I come back, all the fucking chicken is gone, okay? And I didn't get any of the chicken. And I was fucking so angry. You know, and you know me, I can get so mad in a spot like that. I was just fucking furious. And Ishmael was like, what? I did not take the chicken wing. I didn't take the wing. And then I was like, do you want me to fucking check the cameras in the store? And of course, as it turned out, Ishmael took the wing and recorded this. So hold on. And Ishmael's never been on the show before. I've done imitations of him on the show, but this is the first time Ishmael's actually going to be on the show. So it's a pretty important day in Dopey land. Hold on.
Hello, Dopey Nation. This is Ishmael. Ish. I gotta tell you something. I stole a chicken wing from David. From my friend David this morning, and he's mad at me. I can't help it. I love wings.
Hey, you guys want dessert?
All right, what do you think?
I can't believe that's the first time Ishmael's been on the show.
He says, I can't help it. I love wings. And Ishmael, and we actually recorded that like a month ago, and every week he goes, David, did you play my bit on your show yet? And every week I'm like, no. And he's like, what the fuck, man? Why don't you play the bit? And Ishmael like has a few catchphrases. Like he says, unbelievable. And he says, if we're doing bad in a day, he says, if I make $150, I'll be dancing. And he just has a few catchphrases that he always will say. And so I wanted to make an Ishmael doll, like kind of a plush version of Ishmael with his blue jacket and stuff. And he's like, yes, we sell the Ishmael doll, but we'll just call it Ish. And he thinks it's this whole thing. And then there's this other thing where there's this kid that works at the restaurant and he works in the front, and he's one of the general manager's sons, and he started when he was very young. And Ishmael thought, his name is Justin, and Ishmael thought that Justin was super innocent, okay? So Ishmael would say, oh, look at Justin. He's very innocent, like Jesus Christ. So I will call him Jesus Christ. And so he started calling Justin Jesus Christ because he was innocent. And then, like, Justin will be doing something, he won't be paying attention, and Ishmael will be like, look at Jesus Christ, not paying attention to anything, not seating anyone. What's going on with Jesus Christ now? And it's just so, I mean, Ishmael is like the funniest person in the world to me. He's also the classic homophobic. He's not homophobic, but he does the classic, he'll be like, give me a matzo ball soup, faggot. And stuff like that. He'll see me, he'll go, you are the greatest, gay.
Does he have any dopey stories from Egypt? Like when he goes back every year, or family members?
Well, definitely not dopey stories. Ishmael is a devout Muslim. He prays all day. You know, sometimes he says he's dissatisfied in his marriage, and he calls his wife the bipolar, which is very funny. He says, my bipolar is making me crazy, which I love.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's always fun to share Ishmael stories. Anyway, and I haven't talked about Ishmael on the show in so long. Oh man, the other thing that I haven't mentioned is that this week I had this nightmare about Chris. I had a nightmare. It was so weird because it was so vivid, but I had a nightmare that Chris was still alive, and he told me that he faked his death, and that he just didn't want me to know that he was still alive. And it was just this crazy, hurtful dream, and that he wanted to do the show, but he was only friends with me on the show. It was crazy. It was a crazy dream. I woke up in the middle of the night and I thought it was real. Like I really thought it was real. And I was like in the dream, I was like, wait, but I saw your family. Wait, but I was at your funeral. And he was like, it was all fake. You know, isn't that crazy?
That is crazy. I'm sorry.
It's nuts.
That hurt.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts.
How many dreams have you had about him?
A lot.
Really?
Yeah, a lot.
Wow.
But I have.
Have you had dreams about your mom?
Yeah, lots of dreams about my mom. Weird dreams.
Wow.
Do you have dreams about your mom?
I've had a few dreams about my mom and my grandma, but they're very rare. Like maybe I've dreamt about my mom like 5 times in 19 years. They're always I get super emotional when I wake up.
Yeah, I have weird dreams about my mom too. Like they're always like it's always understood that she's not supposed to be there in the dream. You know?
Yeah.
But I want to play an amazing dopey voicemail that I got. You want to hear it?
Yeah, let's hear it.
It's from Iowa. There's a bunch of people in Iowa who listen to the story. There's this one guy named Matt who's this crazy dopey super fan, and he wrote in a story that might or might not be too long to read, but his buddy named Luke, who calls himself Juice, sent in a voicemail, and the voicemail is very debaucherous, so everybody just brace yourself, but it's the perfect length. You ready, Aurora?
Yeah, let's hear it.
All right.
Hey Dave, it's Luke, aka Juice, from Northeast Iowa. Figured I'd send you a little dopey story. Long-time listener, big fan of the show. So happy to see its recent success. But I figured I'd drop you a little dopey story. So go back about 15 years ago. I'm about 16 years old, and trying to get a little powder cocaine. Me and my buddy, we'd been doing, cocaine, pills, weed, and stuff like that. So trying to get a little powder cocaine, and my friend who I bought weed from tells me my dad can probably get you some coke. So we end up going for a ride with him, giving him $60 to get us some coke. He comes back to the car and he says all I could get was hard. So he gives us 2 bags of crack, 30 bags, which looking back now I realize were most likely 20s, and we take them back to my house, and we know nothing of crack, so we just get a weed pipe and just literally set the big crack, like huge crack rocks, in the pipe and try to smoke them, and it just melts down into the glass pipe, and we don't get any smoke, and I vividly remember saying to my friend, man, crack sucks. So we couple weeks go by, my friend calls me and says, hey man, I actually took a hit from a real crack pipe. You got to put the stuff your mom keeps under the sink in it, which is Chore Boy, I know now. So fast forward another couple weeks, my friend gets a bunch of money, comes up on a few $100s, I don't remember how, but we meet up with my friend's dad again, and he decides to buy like $300 worth of crack. So we're up in my friend's dad's attic, which has an extremely extensive VHS porn collection, and probably 6 13-inch TV VCR combos on the wall, all playing different VHS pornos. And it's me, my 16-year-old friend, we're both 16, and probably a 55-year-old 20-year crackhead. So we commenced to smoking crack. We have about 6 crack pipes going at this time, so we don't have to wait for them to cool down, so we can just go like back to back to back hits. And after a while, we're like, we should do something. So my friend's dad looks over and says, hey guys, we should get a hooker. And I'm 16, I'm not so much into hookers at the time. So I just say, I don't know, man, I'm not having sex with no hooker. He then looks at me in just complete disbelief that I would mention having sex with a hooker. And he says, no, we're not going to fuck her. We'll just beat her up real bad. And I'm 16-year-old, pretty green to the whole crack smoking game, and least to say I was a little taken aback. So fast forward, maybe another hour, we're still continuing to smoke crack. The crack's about gone, so we pack up and we're leaving, and he asked me, hey, before you go, can you do me a favor real quick outside? And I'm like, yeah, sure, man, no problem, whatever. So we get outside, and this is like in a city area. He has a small patch of grass with a large tent laying there. And he says, can you help me with this tent? He's like, I'll put it up and you get in it. And this was my cue to get the fuck out of there. So anyways, that's my dopey story, Dave. Love the show. And stay strong, Dopey Nation, and toodles for Chris.
I know that's an insane story. Aurora, are you with me here?
Yeah, dark times there.
I don't want to say that I do not endorse beating up prostitutes or smoking crack or any of it. There's just something about the clarity of his voice and the delivery of the voicemail that I think makes it great. No?
That was a fucking true dopey story, and to be 16 and experience that is some fucked up shit.
I think he escaped by the skin of his fucking teeth. What about you?
Yeah, I think that was like that's what I kind of had in my mind, that film The Room, like the guy was gonna like put him in his backyard for fucking 10 years, sodomize him.
Terrible. Yeah. Anyway, before we go, I just want to read some dopey reviews. You ready?
Yeah.
All right.
Where are these from?
iTunes.
Okay.
This is Real. 5 stars from Ms. Betsy Brown. When you have an addiction to fight, Real helps more than anything. This is raw and does it for me, and I wicked miss Chris. So thank you, Ms. Betsy Brown. Here's another one. I started listening not long ago when I got into recovery for weed addiction. Since that moment, I've been listening to this podcast every day and have 43 days clean now. This is from Julie Zoller. Thank you for helping me stay strong. 5 stars. I have 43 days clean now. Thank you guys. You and Reddit r/leaves are keeping me on the straight and narrow, and I never want to go back to smoking weed. Even though it was fun to grow, I am done. Probably wouldn't be able to do it without my program and you guys. Even though Chris is no longer with us, I haven't listened that far yet. Thank you for helping me stay strong. I love the funny phrases like rope-a-dope and the scenes of New York and Dave's restaurant. I love the guy who wrote in saying he didn't know if he was a normie with afflicted tendencies, and Dave says, if you say that, you're probably just an addict. Keep it real and stay strong, Dave. I'm also the creator of a live storytelling show in Oakland, California, and our April 20th show, 420, is all about drugs. Although I do a drug show every year, this will be a especially good one since I'm no longer a stoner. But I still love to hear other people's stories. Maybe I can hit you with some dopey from that show when it's done. Peace. Listen, Aurora, tell me if I'm wrong. I mean, I still consider myself a stoner even though I don't smoke weed. Is that like a thing for you? Once a stoner, always a stoner, or no?
Yeah, no, I do still identify as a stoner. So, and sometimes, like when we were talking earlier, like I miss that nostalgia. Like, hey guys, you don't know what a stoner I used to be, right? Like,
oh yeah,
that. You know, that kind of feeling.
I talk about it at work all the time because everyone at my job smokes weed, and I used to smoke weed with them. I used to sell. They're all like vaping weed now, and I was like selling them their first weed vapes, you know, and they act like I'm fucking a teetotaler when I used to sell them their fucking weed vapes, and it makes me feel a little bit left out. I love being sober. Don't get me wrong. You know, you understand my point.
I do, and you know, but at the end of the day, like I did it. I had that life. I like this new life. I do feel like I've got endless possibilities now, and you know, I'm happy. I'm happy that that's behind me. And although, you know, it's fleeting. Those moments when I think like, hey, I used to be a stoner too, they're fleeting.
Can I tell you something kind of fucked up?
Yeah.
I think about dying from time to time, you know, and I think about like the end of my life and stuff, and I kind of feel like when I'm gonna die, like when I know that it's the end for me, when someone tells me that you have like a month to live or 6 months or whatever, like I'm gonna buy a record player, I'm gonna buy fucking like $2,000 worth of records. I'm going to buy like 6 cartons of cigarettes. I'll buy a pound of crazy bud, a bong, a TV, and some kind of video game system, and just spend the rest of my life listening to records, smoking cigarettes, and smoking pot. Once I know it's over. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know. And I've heard this from you before. And you know, I hope that changes for you. I hope that you don't always feel like this. Because, you know, I see it in a lot of ways as like making deals, you know?
What do you know? But I just feel like I can't do it now. Like if I spent a day doing that now, it would be a lifetime. But if it was the end of my life, I could just have a little like nostalgia kind of thing. It's like a silver lining of dying.
I hear you, but it's like, I don't know, you already have that. Like you have those experiences, like you can recall those feelings of like, you know what I mean? Like I think about like the listening to the records that we listened to back when we were 20 years old, you know, like listening to like Nashville Skyline, or the feeling of listening to Miles Davis in A Silent Way, like trying to get back to that like ease and comfort and that feeling of that time and place. And it's like I have it, like it's in me, like it's in my memories, and I don't know, I
that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. But
yeah,
but when I have a little bit of I mean, like the fucked up thing is like when my kids walk in and they're like, "Daddy, why are you smoking cigarettes and playing double dribble?" And I'm like, "I'm dying. Let me die in peace." I'm sure it won't be like that. I'm sure you're right. But it's a fun fantasy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's just a fantasy, and I think I think if you were really in the situation, that may not be what you want.
I'm sure. It's a fun nostalgic fantasy for me. Miss Holy Roller, Miss fucking 6 meetings a week, Miss fucking.
Dave, I mean, you've leveled up. I don't think there's going back to that.
Miss Sponsor of Sponsees, you know.
Please.
Give me a break.
Please.
All right,
Please.
let's say goodbye. Oh, you know who fucking came by work? Who texted me and came by work?
Who?
My new mentor, Mark Maron.
Really?
Yup. He texted me. He's like, "Do you guys have real knishes or are they the frozen knishes?" He's like, "I'm in town." So he came in and then we hung out a little bit. So I'm going to try to like make Mark Maron my new mentor. What do you think?
I love that. I think you should totally do that.
All right. Well, if you guys want, you follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I want to give a hearty Dopey hello to our Reddit follower, New York upstate engineer, who's just a brilliant writer. And whatever's going on with you, we have your back. Be in touch. You're a genius. You're super funny. I want to thank Cormac for doing Reddit. I want to thank, that dude, Foul Peralta, I think, who just did some amazing Dopey art. Some other dude just did some amazing Dopey art. Keep the songs coming. I want to thank you, Aurora, for coming on. You say you're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. We want to thank Jason Ellis for coming on. And stay strong, Dopey Nation, right?
Toodles.
And fucking toodles for Chris.
I want to take a walk around the world. I wonder would it do me any good? Until I get some money in my pocket, then I guess I'll just have to walk around my neighborhood. But I want to be good so bad. Want to be so good, so bad, so bad. I want to be good so bad. Bad desire's all I ever had. And I want to take a ride up in the sky. Watch this aeroplane just pass me by. And I want to see a Lear jetliner take a dive, just to show all of these people what it means to be alive. But I want to be good so bad. Want to be so good, so bad, so bad. I want to be good so bad. Bad desire's all I ever had. And my shadow's getting smaller and smaller. And it's time to know where I stand. Shadow's getting smaller and smaller. And it's time to know where I stand. And I wonder would they pay it any mind when I leave this busted city far behind. I'll take the high road, however far it winds, because peace and love are very, very, very hard to find. And I want to be good so bad. Want to be good so bad, so bad. I want to be good so bad. Bad desire's all I ever had. Damn it, all these suckers make me mad. And it's all I ever had. And it's all I ever had. And these suckers make me mad, and I want to call my dad, and it's all I ever had, and it's all I ever had, and it's all I ever had. And it's all I ever had. And these suckers make me mad, and it's all I